Happy World Gratitude Day, and welcome to Week 3 of the Sandlot Cast and the Sandlot Fantasy Football League. With me this week, I've got Hillers. What's going on, Hillers?
Hey, feeling good. How about you?
Yeah, I'm okay. I got Nick. What's going on, Nick? What are you thankful for, Nick, on World Gratitude Day?
I'm thankful that I got to be on this podcast.
Oh,
I'm thankful that I get to work with and lead a bunch of you Muppets every year as a commissioner.
Wow.
Lead? I wouldn't say you're a leader.
I mean, it's a secretary, more like.
Yeah, executive assistant, maybe.
I'm just managing the finances.
Right. Hillers, what are you thankful for?
Don't say
it. Don't say it.
Well, you're really stealing my thunder. But, no. Fuck it. I'm saying it. I'm thankful for an awesome fantasy start and just stunting on all the haters.
I really thought you were going to say Amon-Ra St. Brown, but...
no,
yeah.
I'm saving it. Keeping my powder dry.
All right. Yeah.
What are you thankful for?
I'm thankful for the third podcast in 3 weeks. How about that?
Yeah.
Hey.
Fantastic. It's the first time in years. And, yeah.
Media output like there's never been. Well, that there hasn't been in 10, 15 years.
Yeah, at least. I mean, maybe ever, really.
Maybe ever.
It's
no one knows.
For our historian, it's unknowable.
So, what do you guys think so far? Week 2 of the season? Any overarching thoughts before we get into some segments here?
Oh, so many overarching thoughts. So many bad teams. So many good teams.
Of bad football and a lot of bad coaching out there.
Yeah, just the NFL. Not before we get into the fantasy part. What utter chaos? You know what I mean? I feel like I don't know what to believe in anymore. It's like who's like good teams are bad because of bad coaching. You know, bad teams are now good. You know, dogs and cats sleeping together. Mass hysteria.
I want to go back to something about that we were talking about the other night, and this is going to be about how Nick Chubb scored that touchdown, and because he scored that touchdown, he gave the Jets all those opportunities to do that. You know, just come back and win because he scored that touchdown.
Yeah, because he scored the touchdown, his team lost the game.
Sure. And I want to point out that
when did we say
had the coach not called that play and called for the quarterback to just kneel the ball, that too could have sufficed and drawn and killed the clock and prevented them from doing that.
No, I think they needed a first down, right? Didn't they need a first down?
It was free. They ran in the ball on 1st and 10.
Right, but was it 1st and goal or 1st and 10? Because I think he needed the first down. There was still room to get a first down and get 4 more downs, and then they could have been fine.
I think that it wasn't because even if it was, I think it was 1st and 10, and it doesn't matter if you needed that. Like anyway, bleed the clock, bleed the 2.5 minutes off the clock, the minute and a half that you can, and give the Jets back the ball with 30 seconds to score.
Is this the airing of grievances portion of the podcast?
No,
I didn't see this on the notes.
There's so many. The Cardinals, Cliff Kingsbury had the wise wisdom of knowing they're down by 8. Okay, they know if they score late in the game, they're going to have to go for 2. Okay, they score. Their opponents call a timeout. They come out and get a delay of game after their opponent calls a timeout because they couldn't figure out what play to run. This is after knowing the entire drive that they were going to need to score a 2-point conversion. They were going to need to go for a 2-point conversion. Delay of game. Of course, they get it anyway, so they can say, "Oh, well, we wanted more room to work with, so that's why we did that."
There's going to have to be an investigation into even whose fault that is. That's got to be at least 3 person's fault. There's no way that's one person's fault.
You've got Broncos. You've got Broncos fans counting down the play clock for their own team like it's an NBA shot clock for opponents.
Wow, yeah, that one was something I had never seen before.
I mean,
they're like, "Hey, idiots! There's 2 minutes left. We're gonna start for you because you seem to be having trouble."
Yeah, it's bad. And again, not that any of us could coach a team, I don't think, but I will say the in-game management, and I'm still maintain that every coach needs some kid who's logged like 20,000 hours of Madden on the sideline with them to just help manage a clock when it gets to under 2 minutes. Just so the kid can go, "Hey, coach, now's when you call timeout."
You know what? If I was getting paid when an NFL coach was being paid, I would maybe, give minimum wage to some teenager, be like, "You're my clock consultant, and you just tell me you know, what the time is and how many timeouts we have every time I even glance in your direction, okay?
Yeah.
And
Should I punt or should I go for it?
Yeah.
Minimum
15 bucks an hour?
If I'm an NFL coach, I'm going to get that kid like $100,000 a year.
No
Yeah,
way.
might as well.
No way. You don't need to.
They print
People
money.
will
It
do
doesn't
for-
matter.
People will do it for minimum wage. It would be a nothing on your budget.
You could hire the ball boy. He could probably. I swear
Yeah.
the ball boys on these teams could probably manage the clock better than half these coaches
Yes,
in the league.
right.
I
yeah.
mean,
And you'd be hailed as a genius.
yeah. All right.
Yeah.
And aside from the
That's
coaching,
tough.
which we don't really have much control over, just like in general, just bad football, like bad tackling, bad coverage, bad drops.
Well, I think it's
No, I mean, not for everybody. Some defenses were exceptional.
Yeah, but I think some of it comes down to. I mean, it takes the offenses usually a little while to get up to speed because
Right.
offense is more timing based. They don't play as much preseason football as they used to, and it just takes a while. I mean,
That's a big trend. I think you're definitely noticing the difference in the early season returns between the teams that are trying to play any preseason versus the teams that have utterly abandoned it as a concept. You know, it's going to cost you a game or two in the early going, I think, if you want to sit all your starters. And that's not saying that's a bad decision. I just think we're seeing what the cost of that is league-wide.
Yep, I agree. All right, well, let's get into the what we're going to do here. First, real quick, just some stats to follow up on from last week. This will probably be the last week we do this because we've reached a conclusion on on one of the stats, and you'll see. But last week we went into if you start 2-0, 1-1, or 0-2, what your chances are. Go back and listen to that. We're not telling you that again. But I will say this week we're going to add on if you start 3-0, you have since 2015. 6 out of 10 teams that have started 3-0 have made the playoffs, so that's a 60% chance. I just did that math off the top of my head.
Genius.
Yeah. And if you start 0-3, there have been 17 teams that have started 0-3 in recorded history of this league, and never has any one of those teams ever made the playoffs. So
a chance to make history for one of you.
this year,
seems so
Wounded
weird.
Ducks are our only 0-3 team. So
That seems so. It seems like 0-3. Like it just seems like such a tough. It doesn't seem like that would be that tough to come back from. Because I mean, there's 17 games to play. But I mean, I guess if you just
No, but often if you're truly bad, you lose many of your games.
right, there's
I mean,
there's multiple factors going into the 0-3. You know?
I mean, those threes are. It could just be like scheduled lineup. Like you could have done well. Just like you put up 110 points, you just lost 111, 112, 113. Like
I will say it is, especially from someone in your position, Nick, surprising how determinative it is that an 0-3 loss is keeps you out. But most teams are not you. That is actually a good team that is just struggling under the weight of immense pressure. So,
Nick, you did make a good point though about we do have an extra regular season game now, so these stats are mostly from a 16-game season. Now we got an extra game, so maybe 0-3 not quite as bad as it used to be. So
yeah,
that's a good point.
there might. I can think off the top of my head of at least a couple of teams that if they'd have had just one more week to catch up, probably would have snuck in there.
Yeah.
Not you though, Des. Your team's bad. You're gonna lose.
All right. So this week we're going to do a segment called Pumped or Panicked. We're going to run through each team, highlight a couple players, and really we're more going to gauge on your panic levels, and we'll go over what the panic levels are in a minute. But I think we had a callback first. We had some, because of course that happened. We did that last week, and I think we had a couple of those we wanted to just hit on this week before we moved on.
Right, I just want to point out that because of course that happened, because I called out Daria's team for being, this is the best they're going to do. Like, who's really going to pop on this team? And then goes and blows up for 170 points. So that's what happens when everyone on that team pops at once.
Yeah, turns out that wasn't their ceiling.
Wow, who knew? It wasn't close. Yeah, there was a bad read on the
Well, I
ceiling.
mean, it still could be like a good read, right? Because like then there's this is what the floor is. And it's just that they all pop at the same time, which you're not anticipating, and it's like, oh, this is a lot. This is a lot of a lot.
I think you were calling out low ceiling on that team. We'll check the tapes.
I mean, I was probably calling out low ceiling.
Yeah, you probably were.
Yeah.
All right, and the only thing I had, because of course that happened, is it's week 2. Everyone has a tendency to overreact in some ways and underreact in many ways to week 1. No one knows who on their team to start yet. Week 2 is one of the most painful instances of lineup regret. that we have over the season. And thankfully for some teams, especially the losing teams this week, there were some incredible blowouts for which, no matter who you started, you were doomed to failure. But there were a few where if they'd have just started one person differently, or maybe even a couple people differently, that they would have come out victors. And these are the types of, teams lose the wild card by one game every year, right? And so sometimes you end up looking back to a week like week 2. The regrettees for this week go to Brad Watson for his quarterback benching of Lamar. Who
scored 42 points, I think.
42 points. Your keeper quarterback. You decide, nope, Kyler Murray is in fact good, and I'm going to do that instead. Well, that's perhaps cause for some regret.
It cost him 17 points, and he lost by 15 points. So
yeah, would have been decisive for sure. We have Touchdown Jesus, who sat Garrett Wilson, perhaps for some reason. But I will note that he had 8 targets in the first week and was looking like quite a capable wide receiver. He didn't, and you can't really complain when one of your wide receivers posts over 40. But had he just listened to the signals, had he just put his ear to the ground a little bit closer. This is a guy he might have identified that he got at quite a value, by the way, that might be a major lineup contributor for the rest of the season.
Who does Garrett Wilson play for?
The Jets. Okay. And I think
I'm gonna disagree with you on this one.
Well, it's Jets bias, is what it is.
No, it's the fact that he has Tyreek Hill, Terry McLaurin, and DJ Moore, and to start Garrett Wilson over those guys when Garrett Wilson had 9 points in week 1 is not really something like.
I don't know.
Size of one.
I'm just saying. Potential regret later in the season when Garrett Wilson ends up outscoring DJ Moore. When Garrett Wilson is outscoring DJ Moore by a ton at the end of the season, he'll be like, "Oh, why didn't I see it sooner?"
I think
I'll make you a bet. You want to put it in the bet book?
No,
Let's do it
because
now.
that's not, because what you're saying is that doesn't, no, because you would never start Garrett Wilson over anyone else week 2. You have no confidence that he's going to do anything.
I would have done it.
Why? Based on what, Hillers?
Would have done it in a heartbeat. Offense and targets.
Based on it being Wednesday, Hillers, Merrill.
He had essentially the same amount of points as. Who would you have started him over?
DJ Moore.
He had essentially the same amount of points as DJ Moore in week 1.
Yep. Would have done it.
And DJ Moore has been a top 20 receiver over the past 2 seasons.
That's why it's time for regret. Moving on. Okay. The Wounded Ducks, who is just, not to pick on a very just extremely wounded duck, but he had to know a little bit. This was a known quantity going into the season that he was going to have to choose between his Dallas running backs, and to pick the wrong one and have it cost you a game is ouch. It's going to suck. And it's probably going to suck a few times before the season is over. I kind of feel for him on this one. I'm not saying these people were dumb or bad. I'm just saying that there's maybe going to be some regret when the end times come. That they didn't make some difference. And this is very common of week 2. Actually less common this year just because of, as I said, the extreme blowouts. But there's going to be regret, and of course that happened. You couldn't have saved it. You guys were right in one fact. It's like, how would you know? You don't, but later on you look back and go, oh.
You look back at your close games, and you say,
I could have won.
What cost me that game?
Yeah. I could have one tiny click that I may have been considering taking that I didn't do, and you're done. You're out of the playoffs.
I don't have a problem with the decision making for those last 2 because if I'm the Ducks, I'm not starting Tony Pollard over Zeke, but I see what you're saying in that it still hurts, right? To have that guy on your bench,
right,
that could have given you the victory, and to miss the playoffs by a game, it's brutal.
I think the way I look at it,
rapid fire question: would you start Pollard over Zeke this week?
No.
Okay, good to know.
I think the way I look at it is, if I play that game, well, if I had started this person instead, then the other person could have started that person instead too. And then I get into a game of like that I don't want to go down of, well, just because I set my best lineup, and then if they set their best lineup, then I still would have lost.
Yeah, I mean, look at
something like that. So,
exactly. Like, yeah, look at who Larf started against. That he had Amari Cooper 25 points on his bench, Damian Harris 16 points on his bench, right? So he could have in theory started those guys and just crushed us, and then the the other one wouldn't have But
Okay.
So, that's why I don't
you've
play
ruined a perfectly good segment about how regret is a part of fantasy football.
sorry, we're new at the segment thing. I'm sorry, we didn't know.
Okay, but it is. And I think all we've really proven is why that one episode of the dice throwing on Community got an Emmy, because that's all we think about, the branching timelines.
Fair.
Right?
Fair, yeah.
Maybe we should do a different segment in week 6 called Darkest Timeline.
I like that a lot.
We could roll with that one.
Yeah.
All right.
Can we all get goatees?
Yes. Yeah. little cardboard goatees. We could. Well, I mean,
Hillers and I could have a goatee tomorrow if we wanted one.
I could just if it's week 6, I could probably get one by then.
Yeah.
Right.
All right. So, yeah. Hey, great segment, Hillers. Loved it.
Okay. Well.
No, it was good. It was good. You're right, because those are the weeks we're going to look back and be like, oh, God, because it's possible Tony Pollard just completely outscores Zeke the rest of the year, and it's like you go back and look at week 2, it's like, why the hell would I have started?
Yeah, feel like an idiot later in hindsight.
Yeah,
right. Yeah.
All right. Next segment is Pumped or Panicked, and it's more about a gauge of how panicked we are about it. So Nick, you want to explain this one?
Sure. So this kind of morphed into something else instead, but it's. I think the idea is just looking at teams and players in particular and saying, this person's put up a couple of good weeks. The first 2 weeks, are we pumped about this pickup, or they put up 2 duds back to back? Like, are we worried about this person? Basically, we're looking at the highest of the highs and the lowest of the lows and trying to gauge whether or not we should be pumped or panicked about the person.
And Mike, could you walk us through, just as we spent a lot of time and a lot of effort coming up with a good shorthand for something that means no panic, something that means medium panic, which means there's definitely present anxiety, but we're not ready to make major moves, and then total panic, which means we might just drop our entire team and draft an entirely new team.
Yes, that's you laid it out well, and we decided to go to movies for this and TV
and
entertainment in general. And so we've got 3 levels, as Hiller said. There's the no panic level, which is everything is fine from the good place. When people would wake up, when people would die and they'd wake up in the good place, there'd be a wall in front of them and say everything is fine, and that would just calm them right down, and they'd be okay. Medium panic. Medium panic is what's in the box. That is from Seven, Brad Pitt's character at the end. He's saying, "What's in the box, man? What's in the box?" Like, he's pretty anxious about it. He's pretty nervous, pretty panicked, but not completely freaking out, right?
That's medium panic suggests how we treat fantasy football around here.
There's a reason we're talking about these players. Let's be clear, okay?
I feel like in hindsight, he was really panicked about what was in the box.
Yeah. He was, but not as panicked as our next. Not as panicked as our next person, which is that's it, man. Game over, man. Which is, of course, Bill Paxton from Aliens. Identifying that it's completely over. This player is garbage, and we should just shut it down.
We're all gonna die.
We're all gonna die. So, that said, where are we starting with this one?
Top of the notes, right? Probably that.
Yeah. One. It was Nick's segment. Are you running the segment, Nick, or are we?
Sure. So why don't we go ahead and I did kind of mix up the order a little bit. The first couple I tried to go down off the top of my head what the order was on the rosters page, and then I was like, screw it, and started going down in a different order. So kind of mixed it up a little bit. But first we're going to start off with the dad dicks. And originally I think that the person who like not panicked at all, like super. Again, the boom and bust is how we were going with it. People that we liked about the team and that you've got to be feeling really good about. So everything is fine with this player. Like quite literally, is that you're not worried about this person at all. Jamar Chase, I think that he's definitely coming into year 2 and still proving that he's worth what he spent, and that was a good keeper on his part. And I think that's
Yeah, I think we're everything is fine on Jamar Chase, right?
I mean, and good for him on this one. The only thing more sort of risky than a rookie wide receiver is somebody that is saying that in their second season, this person's really going to be great, because obviously it's not going to be, 12 or 14 different receivers like they're saying it is every preseason. So he got one.
Yeah.
It's good.
Yeah. All right. Other person on the team, maybe not quite the same, Najee Harris.
I think it's going to be a theme going forward.
Yeah. Najee Harris, I think...
$58, second, third year Najee Harris? $58?
I'm going to say game over, man, on this one. For several reasons. One, because the Steelers are bad, and they're going to be in negative game scripts constantly, which means they're not going to be running as much. I will also say Mitch Trubisky does not check down as much as Ben Roethlisberger did in the past. And Najee Harris, if he doesn't get the checkdowns, his actual rushing last year was pretty inefficient. It was pretty terrible. I forget what his yards per carry were, but it was completely volume based, and he's just not going to get that volume this year. I think they're going to take it easy on that. And not only that, but the Dadicks have paid, like you said, $58 for this player as their flagship player that they want to build around. And this guy is not doing it. So, I mean, it might not only be game over, man, for Najee, it might be game over, man, for, total rebuild on this team.
Yeah, I'm going to go with what's in the box on Najee Harris. It's probably bad. As you mentioned, his efficiency is hot trash garbage. But he is still getting, a fair amount of carries. I think this guy has a high floor. I think it's totally unreasonable to expect that he's going to be putting up mid-20s, mid-30s on a regular basis. And so it's not going to be what you paid $58 for sure. But this is not an unstartable running back. This is not the reason he's going to be losing games. There are many other reasons he's going to be losing games.
Because the bad owner.
I'm with Dillers on the what's in the box. I think that it's still a little too early to be able to tell, and he did go against two pretty tough defenses. Going against the Bengals and the Patriots right out the front. I don't think that he's going to ever be everything's fine, but I think that right now it's going to be more in the running back 2 territory.
Oof, man, that's not what you want to hear about your flagship player.
What's in the box is a mid-level RB2 right now.
Maybe, who knows? The way after 2 weeks looking up and down across the board, all running backs, we may have to just reevaluate what the definition of a running back, not what the value of the definition, because the running back definition doesn't change, but what the financial definition of a running back is.
I mean, when you're comparable to a guy like Tony Pollard or, losing to a guy like Miles Sanders, you gotta wonder, did I pay too much money for this guy? And the answer is, yeah, you did.
Yeah, I mean, I shared the tweet on our WhatsApp today. It was like, here's the list of running backs who have scored at least 17 points the first 2 weeks of the season.
All right.
And it's empty. Nobody. There's
I
none
actually
of them.
thought there was a separate tweet coming before I got it. I was like,
no, that's it. None of them have. None of them. It's brutal. The running backs have been, they're like tight end level brutal this year. It's bad. Can
we assign a universal game over, man, to everybody else on this roster except for maybe Jahan Dotson later this season?
Ask. Yeah, I mean, is this just a game over, man team? Is that? I think we lost Nick, by the way.
As a team,
frozen, but... he's back for a minute.
Oh, there he is. Oh yeah, as a team, I think this is game over, man.
Yeah,
just like Nick's connection.
Just like Nick's connection. Let's go forward to Wounded Ducks and see if he struggles back on.
Wounded Ducks. We've got our first person on here, Tony Pollard, and I guess maybe we just combine these. Do we want to combine these? The Cowboys backfield?
Yeah, the Cowboys backfield. I mean, honestly, it just adds to the problems for this team because now, in addition to having...
we're not talking about the problems, we're talking about the players themselves.
Right. Okay. Well, Pollard is overperforming, and it's safe to wonder, I think, are the Cowboys opening themselves up to maybe, more of a passing game? He got 7 targets last week, and only 9 attempts rushing, not a great deal less than a guy like Najee Harris with 43 yards and a touchdown. It's totally possible that he gets yards on any given week. And so I think that makes him much more startable than we expected out of Tony Pollard. Of course, that has a downside, which either one of you two are welcome to take right up.
I mean, I think that being a Zeke owner last year, like I was like, with McCarthy in charge, like Zeke has no value because McCarthy doesn't run enough to be able to do this, and he definitely like using Pollard more in the passing game. I think that Pollard is a great pick on this team, and I think that for $20, depending on they're gonna fire McCarthy, then they're gonna get rid of Zeke, and Wounded Ducks will have Tony Pollard for the next couple of years at $20.
Your prediction is they get rid of Zeke.
You know what the cap hit is for getting rid of Zeke? I mean, they paid him $100 million.
That's why I'm not an NFL coach.
Okay.
That's a little preview of an upcoming segment called Nick's
Or you
Hot
trade
Takes.
him, trade him, whatever you're going to do. Like whatever you're going to do.
I mean, nobody wants. They're trapped with Zeke, man. They can't get rid of him.
Okay,
They can't.
I still think that Tony Pollard for $20 is. Yeah, I like it. Like this is one of the highlights of the team. I think it was a great pick, and I think that it's one of the few sampled things that he doesn't necessarily have to worry about in this world of the cesspool of running back after week 2.
I don't love being trapped in having $64 worth of running backs, and I don't know which one to start on a given week. That seems bad to me.
Zeke has 27 opportunities on the year. I'm sorry, 29 opportunities on the year. Pollard has 24. Yeah.
This is a full committee.
Yeah, I don't think it is. I think Zeke's still going to get the majority of the work, but it's just, again, we talk about inefficiency. I think this is almost Najee level, right? Like, it's just not working, and especially with Dak out for a couple of weeks now, too. Nobody's afraid of Cooper Rush beating him deep. So with Tony Pollard, I think the Tony Pollard, I'm saying no panic. I think Tony Pollard is who we thought he was. I think the panic here is...
I think it's fine.
On the entire rest of the team?
Yeah, I think everything is fine with Tony Pollard. I think the panic here is Zeke. And I think it's... I'm starting to say... I'm going to say what's in the box for now. Just what's in the box.
Yeah.
Level.
What's in the box? Yeah, it could be good. Could be a good thing.
Maybe he falls into the end zone a few times, maybe. I don't know. But I think he's still going to get the majority of the carries.
Yeah, it could be a nice birthday card.
What about Etienne? What about Etienne?
Game over, man! That's it,
game over!
On. Game over. James Robinson is better, and everybody should have known it.
That's it?
And end of analysis. Yeah. You bought into preseason hype at the cost of $31. You're paying for it now, and will be for the rest of the season. Because you didn't even draft Robinson or trade for him as a handcuff when you could have done. Shame.
It would be more leaning towards game over, man. I think that I would agree with Hillers on that. Like, it's more than what's in the box. Like, game over, man, seems harsh, but it's like James Robinson. What did we say last week? Good players are good.
Yeah.
And James Robinson has done nothing but prove that he's a good player for the last 2 years.
I'm gonna say it's a what's in the box. Getting into the stats a little bit, James Robinson had 23 attempts for 64 yards, which is just, it's not great, and that includes like a 50-yard run, I think, like he had at one point this week.
I gotta remember that when we come up to another player later on.
Okay. And so, I mean, yeah, he had the touchdown, but I think the other thing about this was game script, right? The Jaguars went up huge. They're pummeling the Colts. They didn't need to pass. I think Etienne's going to be the passing down back. And in a full PPR league, I'd rather typically have the passing down back, I think. But, man, I don't. That's why I'm saying what's in the box. I'm slightly nervous about it. I'm going to say I'm not ready to give up on Etienne. Let's not forget he was a first-round pick. But so I'm going to say what's in the box for this one.
All right.
Trying to find James Robinson's passing attempts. Yep, only 2 targets last week.
Yeah.
So.
And Etienne only had 3, but they didn't pass a lot because they were up big, right?
Yeah,
so,
right. Because Christian Kirk. Whoop, whoop.
It always comes back to Hiller's team.
Just saying.
Speaking of which, Nick, explain your listings here.
Explain yourself.
Once again, it's players that you feel. Again, when I built this list, it was players you feel good about and players that you're worried about. So it's kind of morphed a little bit. So players that you're feeling great about are Amon-Ra St. Brown. I think that doesn't really come as a surprise to anyone. I think that Hiller's acquiring him and reading about him later on after he's acquired him about how great he is.
No, immediately before I acquired him. Thank you very much.
Yeah, you just have to feel good about that. Like, he definitely looks like he's going to be a factor this season.
Here's the big question with Amon-Ra St. Brown. Is he a sell high right now?
I won't be selling him. I really feel like he's a top 5 receiver.
What if I offered you DeAndre Swift right now for Amon-Ra St. Brown?
Let's talk offline.
See? I mean, like, that's what I'm... But, like, that's what I mean by sell high.
But you won't.
I don't think I will. But I'm saying that's a trade that I think is out there for some people. Some people might offer that, right? Like, I think because of the price I have Swift at, I'm probably not going to do that, right, in a keeper league. But if you're in just like a standard redraft league or whatever, like those leagues are out there, and that's the value of St. Brown right now. I think you could get something like that from him. You could get one of these first round running backs that where you're trading a 5th round, 6th round Amon-Ra St. Brown for them.
And obviously, there's no way that he maintains this pace throughout the entirety of the season. But right now, he's representing as like a top 5 wide receiver. So,
the thing is, he's been doing it for 10 games in a row. It's not just 2 games, right?
Yeah. You should have seen the list of names of people that he tied for having 8 receptions in 8 games in a row. It was absolutely silly. It was Hall of Fame players only. Nick, and there was only like 6 of them.
What do you think, Nick? You think he's a sell high?
I guess sell high means that he's capped, right? That he's reached his ceiling, basically, and he's only going to kind of go downhill from here.
Well, it means, if you can get like I said, a DeAndre Swift,
a top-tier candidate.
If you get Leonard Fournette for Amon-Ra St. Brown, if you could get, I don't know, A.J. Dillon. If you get A.J. Dillon for Amon-Ra St. Brown, are you doing that?
Ooh, Dillon wouldn't be enough.
No, I mean we could play the who would you rather have.
Yeah, like we could do that forever. But I'm saying, like, if there's a running back, like there's got to be an area, right, where you would trade him away. Like there's got to be something you can get, because whoever owns Amon-Ra St. Brown, there is a small level of doubt because it's a Lions player for one.
Yeah, it's fresh.
I think it was like a 5th round pick. It's somebody. It could be fluky. There's part of you that thinks that, and it's like, well, maybe if I can unload this guy at the peak of his value. And get something for him.
I mean, I hate to say it, but I don't think that's a sell high. I don't think he's a sell high. I think that he's.
I get what you're saying. Like it's new love, but I love all the signs I'm seeing here. I have no.
Okay.
I don't have doubt in my heart.
All right. Why do we have Josh Jacobs on our list here?
Explain yourself.
I mean, I guess I did factor in that it was that he was only $25, but I guess I was just looking at the name, thinking like, how do you feel about this being your running back?
I bought him as a high floor flex option, and he's a high floor flex option. Everything is fine.
Again,
okay. I mean, 8 points and 9 points in his first 2 games. You're okay with that?
Yeah, I mean 10 attempts and then 19 attempts. He'll get in there eventually. You know what I mean? It's a touchdown. If I need him as a flex, which honestly I may not. If Miles Sanders keeps up his level of production, I'll start mixing in Sanders and then go to my my wide receiver roster. I'm not worried in the slightest about Josh Jacobs, especially at $25.
All right. I think everything's fine for now. What about Cam Akers?
That's slightly different. I'm starting to worry that the reports of, things really aren't okay after an ACL tear. I believed in the power of modern medicine, and I might now be thinking I overestimated a little bit. But for him, it's still early in the season. I think he was being punished for some reason in the first week, and they definitely gave him a lot more work in the second week. So I don't feel like he's tradable unless I get a very compelling offer, so I guess I just gotta deal with it. So that's what's in the box for me, I guess, right now.
I mean, I guess what I understand is, why are you more worried about Cam Akers, who you spent $4 on, than you are about Josh Jacobs, who you spent $25?
Well, because I meant Cam Akers to be like a structural element of my team going forward. This is a dynasty keeper.
You only spent $4 on it. Like that's the thing. Is that
yes, and so how excellent would that have been if he'd have been good, right? Like
it's about what his expectation was, Nick, on Cam Akers. Like, this is going to be a guy he got for $4 on a great offense for the Rams. That was going to be maybe his RB1 for the next 3 to 4 years. Right?
Yeah. Okay. Yeah.
And now it's looking like, this guy, maybe he'll be a flex guy
also,
that I can plug in every now and then.
You talk about the $4, but keep in mind, I wasted my IR slot for the entirety of last year to get him at that. I kept him on my team, just right in the pine all year, in the expectation that he would be good, and that it hasn't quite happened yet. Is a what's in the box for me.
Gotcha.
I'm going to say game over, man, on this one.
Yeah.
I think the Achilles injury, we haven't really seen a running back successfully come back from it yet. And I mean, he came back last year. I know it was early. He came back last year, didn't look good. This year they don't seem interested in giving him a ton of work. I don't know.
Jeez. Robot leg.
What about Ramadre?
The Vindicator, he's fine. He's gonna percolate. It's a percolator before he's the Vindicator.
He traded for Ramadre. He's gotten 4 points and 6 points so far this year.
He's percolating.
Not quite Darren Waller level, but you're okay with it?
I mean, Hunter Renfrow hasn't exactly blown up the charts either. You know what I mean? Like
that wasn't the big part of the trade, to be fair.
No,
it was only Waller was the.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Fair cop. Might have been a bad trade, but to my mind,
had 11 points and 17 points this year. So
he's still percolating. So
okay. Nick, thoughts on Ramadre as a Patriots fan?
I'm game over, man. Or no, what's in the box? What's in the box? We'll see what happens.
What's in the box for me? All right, Nick. Let's start with you here. You've got Tua on there. Well, yeah. What do you do with Tua?
Yeah.
Are you a believer now?
I don't know.
I know.
I don't know because I don't know. I need to see it again. And
that's what's in the box.
You need to see 6 touchdowns again.
With Tua playing Buffalo this week, I'm kind of like, I don't know what I want to do with it. I don't know. Like, 6 touchdowns is great. It is against the Ravens, and I feel like they were probably sleeping a little bit for the first couple of touchdowns because they were like, oh, we're up so big. We're just going to let them score a couple garbage time touchdowns. And before they knew it, the game kind of got, like, the Dolphins got rolling. Because I feel like the Ravens in general just came out flat-footed in the second half. Like, it looked like it was garbage time that just turned into a win. Is what it kind of looked like.
It was chuck it time, is what it was. Yeah, it was just like if we're gonna come back, we got to chuck it.
Yeah.
So
all day, every day.
I like what I saw out of him, but I don't think that I'm. I think going against. I think I'm not going to start him this week because it's going against the Bills. But I'm like, I have to live with this decision, and this week will determine. Like, if it's close, if he scores 18 against the Bills, I'm like, you're right.
You're starting him over Russell
going forward
this week.
Yeah. No, I'm going to start Russell this week.
Yeah.
Okay.
See, for me, if I was Nick, my question isn't, do I really, really believe in Tua? It's, how much have I abandoned faith in Russell and, more importantly, the Broncos organization that is supporting him, right? Because I don't feel like he's getting any kind of near the coaching or the O-line or whatever that he needs. And it's looking like, against a tough defense. Like, he played the Texans last week and didn't do well. He's coming up against the Niners.
Yeah, the Seahawks in week 1.
You think he's going to do better, against the Niners? I don't. Like, for me, I'd be starting Tua not because I love Tua, but because it's a game over man, almost like approaching game over man levels for Russell Wilson.
Yeah, I mean, the question is about Tua, and it's like, I think it's what's in the box, but it's definitely going to very quickly be everything's fine. Like, I just don't know. Like, maybe I'll change my mind. But I think right now I might just roll with Wilson because I need to see it from Tua for one more week.
I'd go with Tua because I haven't seen it with Russell yet for a game. So I would. Right. I'd probably start Tua if I were you. Russell is a what's in the box. I think I'm reserving game over man because, again, new coach, new offensive coordinator, new quarterback, new system, new everything.
Yeah.
Maybe it just needs to percolate a little bit as someone
right.
has said.
They've got to get it together, though.
So, all right, Brandon Cooks. Is there concern over Brandon Cooks?
Why Brandon Cooks out of all the many interesting wide receivers that you have on your team? Why Brandon Cooks?
Because he's a starter. Because he's a starter that I have on my team.
Got it.
And it was like I got him, have him for $6. Like, I have him plugged in as my flex, and he hasn't really performed. And am I worried about Brandon? Am I worried about Brandon Cooks?
Are you?
Well, so you guys go first. I'll go second.
Well, no, I mean, because
he's everything's fine for me.
Yeah, everything's fine. Yeah, it's Brandon Cooks. Yeah, I mean, it's 2 weeks. Perfectly good returns out of 2 weeks. Yeah, no worries.
This is Brandon. Brandon Cooks is a just close your eyes and look at his numbers at the end of the year kind of guy. Is what he is. Like, and he'll finish as a top 24 receiver because he always finishes as a top 24 receiver.
Yeah,
assuming he stays healthy, which he typically does.
right.
Yeah, and he's just gonna have, receivers are gonna have down weeks.
Yeah,
I think he's fine.
Yeah,
that was my. I mean, again, but that was again the point of this was that I listed one positive and one negative player, and Brandon Cooks was my negative player.
12 targets, 10 targets. Yeah, he's no problem.
I think the more interesting question here is Austin Eckler.
Sure.
Right.
Everything's fine.
Everything's fine.
Everything's fine.
Okay.
If Justin Herbert has to miss time, Eckler will suffer as well. One question I had is about Lil Herbert. When do you think?
No, we don't have to go. I'm going to break the fourth wall here and just say we don't need to go down the roster.
No, we don't. But we did yours very quickly because you did bad players for your.
Why do we care? Why do we care about Khalil Herbert though?
No, but like, when do you think he's going to be like a startable running back? I think this.
When David Montgomery gets hurt.
Week 5. I'm putting down a marker.
David Montgomery's been great. I don't think.
Will anyone else do it?
I think Herbert's just a backup right now. That if Montgomery gets hurt, you plug him in. But
Fair.
I would say for Eckler, I think everything's fine too. I think you just kind of throw him in the pool of underperforming running backs right now. Underperforming top running backs. I think that's where he is.
I think what it really comes down to is if he has one touchdown in the last 2 weeks, like his overall numbers and like his overall feel looks good. Even if it was that second touchdown, that first touchdown came last week, and he got 24 points. Okay, that's still good.
Yeah, just like the rest of those guys, right? Like, I mean, just like any of those other. Yep.
One touchdown instantly changes these numbers. That's why I'm not worried about it. Like the touchdowns will come.
All right, CTR. I think one of the positives, Gerald Everett. In the cesspool of tight ends that is fantasy football these days, Gerald Everett seems to be the one value tight end that was found this year so far. Maybe him and Freiermuth, I guess. But good on CTR, I guess, for finding Gerald Everett.
Yes. Good.
Yeah.
I mean, especially with Kittle hurt.
Nice thing. That's the thing, right? Is that with Kittle out, he found a replacement of Kittle, essentially.
On the other side of things, Kamara. What's our level on Kamara here? What are we thinking? Not only because Kamara was out this week, but Jameis Winston, a quarterback.
To say with an injury, though.
Right, it is, but that's part of it, right? He's injured. You got Jameis Winston, a quarterback. You got a new head coach. Winston's not typically a check down guy. And a lot of Kamara's value comes from catching passes. Michael Thomas back, gobbling up a lot of targets. Chris Olave gobbling up a lot of targets. What's our concern level with Kamara right now?
What's in the box? I mean, yeah, for all the reasons you said, like, it's a different situation. It's a different time. He's injured. I don't think you can expect, a guy to be a top 5 receiver for a decade. That's an exceptional accomplishment reserved for very few in NFL history, right? And he may have just, hit his time, right? I think the bigger concern is that CTR in general, he has 4 running backs, 2 of which are Jets. He doesn't know what to start. He's got other problems, but for Kamara himself, I'll say it's a what's in the box. When he comes back and he's healthy, I think there's every expectation that he could at least be a high floor starter for this team.
Oof, Alvin Kamara, a high floor starter, Nick. What are your thoughts on Kamara?
It's Alvin Kamara. Everything's fine. Okay. You were injured last week. You're injured last. No. It's Alvin. It's been. He has one game with 9 attempts. With he touched the ball 12 times in the first week, and
against
it was
the Falcons.
Who knows?
I don't know if you can say everything is fine for a guy that has 7 points in the first 2 weeks, but I mean, most things you
7
can
points
say
in
were
the first
fine.
Game is what it was. He didn't play the second week.
Right. But I'm saying
then in that case, then we should be panicked about everyone because no one's doing well. Like he has 7, at least his 7 points is because he didn't play 1 week.
Aaron Jones is doing well.
I would say I'm going to stick with everything's fine for now. Just the history of Alvin Kamara. I'm not giving up on it yet. I think we're at
good players are good.
Good offense. I'm gonna stick with it.
Yeah.
But
All right.
if when he comes back and he's still his first week back, if he still struggles, doesn't get a ton of opportunities, yeah, we might have a problem.
You're moving into the box.
I might be moving to the box here.
All right.
What about QB for this team? What's our level of concern for Cyborg Tony Romo's QBs?
Do we have a lull? Do we have a lull sitting?
Lol.
Well, the good news is Kirk Cousins. Can't
I
play
think
on
these are
Monday
all
Night Football.
lulls.
I mean, Kirk Cousins. To see him this last week was a true disaster. And it was almost like, oh, what's he going to do next? But we all knew the answer. It was throwing.
We all knew what he was going to do next.
He was going to throw another.
He's going to lob a fade off his back foot to Darius Slay.
I mean, and let's be honest, Jameis Winston's. This is what Jameis Winston does. He's going to have his boom games, and then he's going to have his 3-pick games where he doesn't do anything. Then he's going to have his boom games where he still throws 5 picks and still scores 30 points. Like that's what Jameis Winston is. Like I think what's in the box is okay, or what's in the box to everything is fine.
He might be able to deal with one of his tight ends for a quarterback at some point. I don't know. We'll see.
Okay.
I think everything's fine. I'm not.
Yeah.
You know, I think Cousins is a fine starter. I just think it's a tough start for him.
Yeah.
And he had 19 points his first week. So, okay. Assassins next team. Bright spot James Robinson. We kind of talked about him already. Some in, some out. But moving on. Past James Robinson. Chase Edmonds was maybe supposed to be this team's RB.
Yeah, like this was a
flex or RB2 or something.
I mean, Chase Edmonds was a preseason darling.
Right. This was a preseason hype pick, right? And so far that has not been borne out as Raheem Mostert has been taking a significant amount of the carries. So I don't like. I mean, especially with like the Miami passing game working out as well as it is, I don't love that for him. You know what I mean? That's not great. That's pretty bad. I mean, I felt like this was a team that was banking on guys like Edmonds or maybe J.K. Dobbins to be the good, strong backup to Jonathan Taylor that had this team winning. And now you don't know whether to start him or Patterson or Dobbins or Edmonds or Robinson. And so I feel that the real what's in the box isn't about any particular player on this team. It's about who are you supposed to start here? And you're going to get it wrong like a few times. You know?
And for what it's worth, Jonathan Taylor scored 27 points week 1. So he has scored over 17 points through the first 2 weeks.
Yeah, the stat was they haven't scored 17 points both weeks. That was
in
the
both
stat.
weeks.
Oh, okay.
Right.
So yeah, I think Taylor obviously is fine. I'm not worried. Taylor, whatever. We're not worried about Taylor. But yeah, Edmonds. I mean, this is Chase Edmonds. Every year in Arizona is like, this is Chase Edmonds. He's finally got his opportunity. That was what it was last year when he came in, right? James Conner took over, ended up being the guy.
It's always about to happen. Yeah.
2 years ago, it was Chase Edmonds. Oh, they're going to unleash him. He's going to get more like every year. Now he's in Miami. They brought him in for a reason. He's going to be the guy, and he's the same guy. So like, this is. I don't know that it's game over, man, because it's like it's who he is. He's going to get some points. He's just not. He's a flex. He's a flex. You plug him in a good matchup and whatever. The other thing I'll say, let's see, Dobbins. What about J.K. Dobbins? I mean, I don't think we need to say much, right? He's just been hurt. He hasn't played.
This entire team's running back core, though, it's like, who do you start? You know, other than Taylor, who's obvious must start. Among the other 4, let's say Dobbins becomes healthy, I wouldn't know what to do. I honestly wouldn't. And I'd probably get it wrong.
You give him a game. You give him a game to get acclimated, and then you hope that he's your RB2 after that, honestly.
I guess.
And you hope Lamar doesn't run in all the touchdowns.
Huh?
So I think everything's fine with Dobbins. I'm not doing anything yet. He's still just hurt, right?
I think it's unfair to pronounce on a guy that hasn't played yet.
What's that, Nick?
Yeah.
So you don't think Patterson's the number 3?
Oh, true. I mean, he's got Patterson. Maybe Patterson's his number 2, maybe, or I don't know. We complain about this running back core. This is a deep running back core. I mean,
Taylor and Robinson not only needed the flex, and his flex could be a wide receiver.
Well,
so, what does he really need from Dobbins or Chase. He can trade Dobbins.
He needs to deal one of these guys for a wide receiver.
Yeah.
Well,
in the
I
worst
think
way.
one, yes, in a million ways. Two, I don't think Cordell Patterson has really proved himself quite yet. He had an amazing first week, and then he had a terrible second week. So it's like
a really good 2021.
It's hard. Yeah, it's hard to say. You know, there's a lot of bad press about him because of his, you know, the decrepit skeleton a man becomes at the age of 31. You guys know how you all died and had to be resurrected as a ghoul at the age of 31. Well, that's how he is now. So he got a lot of bad press, but he does still seem to have that role, and he has. You know, I kind of like Watson's backfield choices. Each one, if I consider each one, but in aggregate, it seems like such a headache to me.
You're all over the place. As
per usual.
I will. What I'll say is, if he's not sending out offers for his running backs for receivers, that's fantasy malpractice, and he should be sued for it.
I love that.
I mean, he should be like initiating offers at this point.
He should be sending out offers like he has 5 startable running backs essentially right now. Like, you know, I mean, Edmonds is a flex start. Like, he's fine. You can plug him in. He has 5 startable running backs, and he has.
This is not an owner that initiates trades. This is one of the least trading owners in the league.
I'm sorry. This week he had 1 startable receiver, like T. Higgins. That's it. I don't want to start Nico Collins, DJ Chark, or Kadarius Toney right now. Do you? No.
Who's Nico Collins?
Yeah, right. So, yeah. Watson.
Even Gabe Davis, who was, you know, preseason darling Gabe Davis.
Well, he was hurt this week. He only played. He didn't play week 2.
Yeah, but it's like you don't know is the point, right?
Right. Well, and you don't want him to be a guy you have to rely on, like especially. I don't know. I'm not a Gabe Davis guy, but maybe he is. I don't know. Anyway, Watson, make a trade. Make a move.
Yeah. Yeah. Time to begin the trade talks, Watson, for sure.
So, how you feeling about DeAndre, Merrill? I mean, you gotta be feeling good about DeAndre.
I do. Yeah, he's.
I mean, that's the
everything's fine. He's what I thought he was. You know.
I mean, that's he's the quote highlight of your team in terms of this. Like he is the best thing that's.
Yeah.
I mean,
this isn't a panic assessment. This is just a wow. He's exactly looking like a top 5 running back right now.
Like everything on your team taken. So it's everything on your team is fine. So there's nothing really to question about. The only
he got 7 touches last week
and
had 16 points. So
yeah, yeah, not a problem.
Only can play the commies every week. So I guess the really only question for you is
the Eagles week 1 got 26.
What are your thoughts? Like, what is your panic level on McCaffrey?
It's fine. Everything's fine.
Yeah, I gotta concur. Totally fine. He's got the attempts. He's got the yardage. He's got the points.
He doesn't. I mean,
he doesn't. Yardage. He doesn't have the usage.
He had a 40-yard run. He had like a 50-yard run. Like.
Yeah, because he does that frequently. I mean, that's why he's a good running back.
We just penalized someone earlier in the podcast. We're bad.
No. The difference in that was that guy had 23 rushes for like 63 yards. Yeah. McCaffrey had 15 for 102.
Right.
So there's a little difference there.
Or 14 for 60. Right.
When a guy gets a reputation,
14 for 60 is still over 4 yards a carry.
Yeah. When he starts, when it's known that he can bust it for 40 yards in any play, you can't then penalize him because he had less attempts because he got 68 of those yards on 1 and a touchdown. You know what I mean?
But you can't use that logic of saying like, yeah, but this guy got it. You can't use that logic of a detriment on one player 5 minutes ago and then say, but it's okay.
You definitely can.
I can, and I explain it, but let me explain it a little bit more. Like the yards per carry, if you take that run out for both players, the yards per carry on McCaffrey are over 4 yards per carry. The yards per carry for James Robinson, I think, were barely over 2.
Yeah.
So
you definitely
that's a big difference.
And let me break it down and make it even more simple. Sample size. Christian McCaffrey with as a large sample size, known to be excellent, regardless of when he gets it. The other guy, not as much.
The concern with McCaffrey, he's never been he's been a good runner, like a pretty good runner. McCaffrey made his points in the receiving game, and if there's any concern, and it's a slight concern, I'm not super concerned about it, is he's not getting passed to a lot by Baker. Baker doesn't check down to him a lot. It just doesn't happen. It's not who Baker is. And maybe that'll change, but 5 targets each of the first 2 games. whatever. I mean, that's still what 17 times 5 is what? I don't know, 60 targets, something like that.
All right. Oh, by the way,
my
congrats on Cooper Kupp, 31.8 points in both games this season. Ugh. Fucking disgusting. I hate it.
Yeah, he's good.
I hate it. I hate it so much.
Always open. No, so no real concern. Just always struggling to find a tight end. Always, that's just the deal. My team's not as deep as I thought it was. Just a heads up, Chris Olave breakout coming in the next week or two. Just everybody watch.
Okay.
I would be. I'm what's in the box with McCaffrey. I would be in what's in the box with McCaffrey just because again I get the capital that invested in him, and if Baker doesn't start checking down more, and if the Panthers don't switch up their
Pantherness.
The Pantherness, yes.
I mean, he's the number 9 RB on the year right now. He hasn't scored a touchdown yet. So,
Yeah, it's fine. Moving on.
Yeah. Next team, not going to happen, Chiefs. Highlight, Michael Thomas.
Yeah.
He's not what Michael Thomas was, but he's still great.
Good.
Still a great value for what he paid for him.
Yeah.
And gobbling up those targets, right?
Beating every running back for week-on-week consistency so far. So, I mean, you can't complain about that, right? I mean, he's getting 8 and 9 targets, 5 and 6 receptions. Guys right down the middle, putting up high teens, early 20s. I'll take that every week. No problem at all. Yeah.
Downside, Nick, his running
Dalvin
backs.
Henry.
Dalvin Henry. He went big on Dalvin Cook and Derrick Henry, and we can probably just group them together here, unless there's some reason you want to split them up. But Nick, what's your panic level on these two?
Why'd you call them Dalvin Henry though? That's a weird choice.
What would he call them? Dalrick?
Derek Cook.
Dalrick. Dalrick would be their tabloid name, right?
Dalrick.
Yeah, Dalrick. Yes.
Or Dervin?
Dalrick sounds good. Or Dalrick is better than Dervin, so let's go with that.
All right, we'll go with Dalrick.
I like
Dalrick.
So, Nick, what's your concern level on Dalrick?
Very high. I am.
What does very high mean? I don't understand. I don't understand that lingo.
I need movie quotes, or I don't get it.
Game over, man.
Game over, man.
Wow.
Whoa.
Scenes.
It's game over, man.
Why is that?
It's game over because of the capital that you invested in. And I know that we're getting into like the meta of this a little bit, but you have Dalvin Cook and Derrick Henry, and you're 1 and 2. Like that's tough. Like
you're at $109 on 2 players, half your budget.
It's tough to come back from that, and I think that in general, like the little bit that I've seen, and even like looking at their numbers, the matches that they've had, like they should be better. Like if there's any part of the offense that should be clicking, like your running back should be clicking a little bit more because it is just like run through the hole. I guess that's everybody offense. I don't know. I would just be, I'm a game over man for these two.
That's what she said.
What about you, Ehlers?
I'm at what's in the box on Dalvin Cook, but I'm also a game over man on Derrick Henry, and I don't know if it's Derrick Henry's fault or what, but the whole team doesn't look like what they used to, and I know they're coming off a loss to the Bills, you know what I mean, and that's rough because the Bills are like a huper. Yeah, but the Giants, I don't count as
talking
like
about the first place New York Giants.
A tough beat against the Giants. I think when the Giants play the Eagles, they're gonna be, shown a different way. Like,
how will Derrick Henry feel after the Giants play the Eagles?
No way. I'm just saying that, like, I don't think the Giants are the massive challenge that the Bills are, and he had comparable scores against them both, right? He had 21 attempts against the Giants too, vice only 13 versus the Bills. So I'm kind of even discounting his 8.5 against the Bills. Like I would expect that from even like a very skilled running back. I don't like how the team looks, and I think they're always going to be behind, which is going to put them in a disadvantage. I don't even think it's Derrick Henry's fault. I'm what's in the box for Dalvin Cook because I think the Vikings will be up and down, and like Dalvin Cook is still extremely involved, and they get him involved in good plays and stuff. Derrick Henry, I'm not there yet. I think that team looks real bad this year, and this team has many other good things going for it. You know what I mean? Stephon Diggs, we didn't even talk about. probably the best receiver in the
You
league.
don't have. I got it. Yep.
There's no panic level there. He's amazing.
No, there's no panic level. I'm just saying this team has other things to rely on. But if I paid $43 for a guy, this is not the situation I would want him to be in.
All right. Well, I'll finish on the running backs by saying everything's fine with Dalvin Cook. Guy had 23 touches in week 1.
Yeah, right.
Against the Packers D, pretty good. And then they just got totally shellacked by the Eagles at Philadelphia. It was a weird game. Like they were just down so fast, so early, and it got away from them. And Cousins just can't be a guy who just stands back and hucks it. So I'm sticking with everything's fine there. Derrick Henry, I'm going to say it's a what's in the box. I think traditionally he's kind of a slow starter. He tends to gain momentum a little bit as the season goes on. The weather gets colder. He becomes a little better.
Weather gets colder. Like he has weather-based powers.
I'm not saying. I mean, I'm saying when the weather's colder, nobody wants to hit a gigantic man running at them. I mean, nobody ever does. But I think, I don't know. Maybe it's a narrative that people just like to talk about. But I think Henry, as the year goes on, gets a little better traditionally. So it is a what's in the box just because of his age and his usage. And like you said, Hillers, the losing A.J. Brown, I think, condenses the defense a little bit. There's no one there to really take the top off unless Treylon Burks can be that guy. So there's a little concern there, but I'm not super concerned with that. The one person maybe I'd be concerned with, though, and we didn't list this, but Aaron Rodgers, I think, is also what's in the box.
Oh, yeah. That's good. That's a good shout.
Not only because he's a weird guy, and he's a weirdo now, and just completely crazy, but he's got no receivers. Like, he has nobody to throw to him.
If Alan Lazard is your number one, time to start pulling on the collar a little bit.
Now, that said, this team, I think this team can make a run at the playoffs. I think they have the roster for it if these guys play. I mean, Aaron Rodgers, Dalvin Cook, Derrick Henry, Stephon Diggs, Michael Thomas, like Zachary. I mean, this is a good team. Like this is
2 years ago, it would have run through the playoffs.
This is the best team. This is the best team that 2018 has ever seen. I mean, it's not even close. But yeah. So
one quick note I'd like to make before we move on. This is a team that took the good steps to draft a new kicker and study that on the waivers, and he won by exactly the amount that kicker provided him this week. So, just saying.
So moving on to who do we have?
Salad. The salad tadpoles.
The salad tadpoles, which it autocorrect. Salad tadpoles automatically autocorrects to salad on every format, so we've decided that that's what he meant to call this team. So, salad tadpoles.
First topic to discuss here, Antonio Gibson, which he's been, by running back standards, pretty good so far because, all running backs kind of stunk.
Dumpster fire.
But Antonio Gibson has been a highlight. That said, there's this looming smoking gun, if you will, out there.
Too soon!
Oh, okay, sorry. But Brian Robinson is doing drills. They're saying he's going to be back in a few weeks. What are our thoughts on Gibson here? What's our thoughts on him now versus what do you do with him?
I mean, he's got to hold tight and hope that he can keep what he has going. And I think for the moment, everything's fine. I mean, I think for the next 2 weeks, everything's fine because he has no one breathing down his back. So all you have to do is figure out that is a week 5 problem for you, Salad.
Yeah, there's no one gunning for his job right now.
Oh, no.
No, I'm just saying that it's not what's in.
How long have you had that one in the chamber?
Ouch. Okay. Now we're all guilty and we can move on. Now we're all at fault. But for the commies in general, it's hard to know what to think, right? It is, and not to try to parrot any of their dumb marketing about it being a new era, but it is a substantially reconstituted team, right? And they are doing differently than they have in past seasons. So it's kind of hard to know how to take what's going to happen with their running backs or their wide receivers or their tight ends or whoever else. So I think a lot of people have a lot of optimism based on what they've had so far, but they faced, the Jaguars and the Lions only, and they're good teams, but they're kind of middle of the rank. It's really impossible to know. For right now, I got to say everything fine with Antonio Gibson because you expected him to be good. He's faced a couple of good teams. He's had fine scores. I can't see a reason to start freaking out about anything that happens there, unless and until he starts having competition in the backfield.
I have no idea what to think about matchups with the Jaguars and the Lions right now. No
Right.
idea.
Right.
Traditionally, they've been awful, right? But this year,
Not anymore.
maybe they're not awful. Like
Not
I don't know.
anymore.
Like the Lions' offense definitely good, right? Like Lions' offense can definitely score.
Yeah. I think we can say definitively that they are explosive now.
Yeah.
Somehow.
Their defense, I think, is bad still. I think.
Probably
Jaguars'
still
defense, I think, is
medium.
probably still kind of bad, bottom half at least.
Yeah.
But anyway,
Well, their points against definitely goes up with the shutout.
what I'll say is the other person we should talk about here is Adam Thielen, who week one was, what did he do week one? Like nothing, right? Week
6.
one, 3 catches,
6.5.
3 catches for 36 yards. Week two did not have a catch till at least the fourth quarter, and ended up getting saving his day with 4 for 52. But it was garbage time, just
Last 7 minutes.
last 7
Yeah.
minutes he caught passes.
But I mean, is that going to happen a lot with the Vikings this season? Is I think what we have to be asking ourselves, because I think this is a fair line to consider if they're going to be down a lot. But beating the Week 1 Packers, yeah, they look good, but it was the Week 1 Packers. Then they had to face what is commonly considered to be one of the top teams in the NFL with the Eagles. So I don't think we have a good baseline on this team at all right now
for Thielen, you mean?
for the Vikings. And
But for
Thielen-
Thielen, are you saying everything's fine for Thielen then at this point?
what's in the box? Because even against the Packers, he had 6.6. So it's a what's in the box.
What do you think,
opinion
Nick?
For me,
I'm going to mix it up, and I'm going to say everything is fine. I think that he will get his. I think that it's tough. I mean, Adam Thielen can only be as good as Kirk Cousins is, and when you're the second option,
well, then that's a what's in the box.
Well, no, because he's
Okay,
been with Cousins for the last 4 years.
Kirk Cousins isn't going to play on Monday night for the rest of the night, for the rest of the year, right?
Yeah.
You better hope not.
On primetime games, it's game over, man. If you're playing at 4 o'clock on Sunday, you're fine.
He's a
Everything's
shapeshifter.
fine.
I'm a what's in the box guy. Thielen last year was bailed out by touchdowns, and even the year before that, I think he was too. If he's not getting those red zone targets and he's not getting touchdowns, then the volume's not there, and it hasn't been for a while. So, that's a what's in the box.
Congrats on the win, though.
Yeah, I think. Yeah.
Too bad about the suspension.
Gonna be
BT
tough to
Dubs.
start a wide receiving core next week for the salad
yeah.
apples.
Yeah.
Too bad about the Mike Evans suspension for the salad.
Yeah.
Maybe you should pick fights for someone that doesn't have $1 billion.
Gazebo, our next team here.
Unfortunately, I think it's going to be pretty quick.
Nick and I have had a hard time pinning down Daria's team and figuring out exactly what we think of this. Hillers, you've been really good. You've been kind of high on this team from the start. You typically are on Daria's teams, though, I will say. But not that there's any reason not to be, except for the fact that the last 8 years she hasn't made the playoffs. But other than that,
Whatever.
it's been
She's on the trophy 3 times.
3 times on the trophy.
And was top of the league last week, so I feel vindicated by my statistics on that one.
Nick and I saying that, what could this team really do? I feel like she's hit her ceiling, and then boom, 165 points.
I mean,
just dumped them right on our heads. So looking at this team, I'm like
kicking off. It feels like it's just kicking off.
It does. I think so. Nick, what do you have to say for yourself here?
I'm still going to stick by the. I'm not going to double down on this and say is that what we saw is
move?
everyone boom at once. What we saw is everyone boom at once.
There's no high ceiling on this team.
Did we though?
Yeah, I mean, this is
Did we?
I think so. I mean,
because if you look at this team, Leonard Fournette 9 points, Javonte Williams 9 points, Devontae Adams 9 points, and that team scored 163.
I guess they didn't boom at once.
Yeah,
Okay,
suggesting the ceiling could have been 30 points
and,
higher.
And honestly, if you look at this team, those are the 3 that I'm probably the most scared of, right? Or at least I was coming into this week. Like those are the three that I'm like, oh god,
Now you know
could
better.
be 30 points, and
Yeah.
so I don't know, Nick. I mean, what?
No, there's nothing. Honestly, it's. I have everything is fine on this team, basically from top to bottom. There are no question marks at your starters, and that's kind of what the purpose of this whole segment was to begin with. Is people that you drafted to be starters that aren't working out well, and there's nothing on this team that I don't like, and there's nothing on this team. Yeah, that's right. Yeah, everything.
Chris Godwin for me is a what's in the box. That's it. That's the end of the. Other than that.
Yeah, I mean, she's doing this without Godwin, right? And if Godwin gets right and gets healthy,
who do you even start? It wouldn't even matter. It wouldn't even matter. You destroy anyone with anyone that you put up there.
The concern is running.
Thing.
The concern becomes running back, I guess, but like everyone's running backs suck. So, like
this team's running backs.
If your three wide receivers
suck.
are Devontae Adams, Jalen Waddle, and Chris Godwin, or Jake London, or Drake London. Sorry,
Come
Drake
on,
London.
Respect. Put respect on his name. Why
it's
don't
a pretty
you?
good four. She definitely won the lottery on the. I'm sorry, we're not. This is not what we're trying to do. Though we're trying to do the panic thing, but we're just trying to eat some crow here on Daria's team because
it's an exceptional team. Yeah.
Yeah, I don't think there's any panic on anyone on this team really. I think everyone.
No one.
If anything, there's some people who haven't really performed yet, including I think Leonard Fournette and Javonte, who haven't really busted out yet. So. If that happens,
or possibly Kenneth Walker, or possibly Devin Singletary. I mean, it could only get worse. I feel like it could only get worse.
This team is scary, and we'll be there at the end. Weenye, next team.
Speaking of the end,
Nick, how hard was it to find a positive on this team?
Not very hard, actually, because looking at the team, the positive is Saquon. Like that was a great pick by you, and you've got to like that he's still playing. That he's actually playing in week 3. Like,
got to be happy that his legs are working.
Yeah, I mean, up and down. Like again, running backs haven't been the greatest for the last couple of for the first 2 weeks, but you have Saquon. He's playing on Monday. Good for you. Like I think he's playing Sunday. I think that's the highlight.
I was super ready to call this team Nick Quan and the Ayuks, but sadly, Rashad Bateman looks like a potential highlight for this team and somebody that I think could be, easily a top 20 wide receiver by the end of the season. Just the way they're using him and the type of plays that he's in, and the way I see him, fighting for the passes and catching them. I don't feel like this is fluky. It looks like he's meant to be a part of their offensive plan, and it looks like he's very skilled and will get exactly as many targets as are required, which when you look at it 5 and 7, not that much, but then he's putting up, 60 and 100 yards and a touch. So this is one of those things where he doesn't have the targets because 10 targets aren't required to get to 70 yards and a touchdown. So
all right. But let's try to stick with our format here.
My bad.
No, I did it on Gazebo. So
yeah, everything is fine on Chubb. Everything is fine on Barkley.
Yeah. So yeah, running backs are great. The next one will be though Kyle Pitts. Kyle Pitts is got to be the most panicked about fantasy football player of the season so far, right? Like, I mean, in snake drafts, people were spending 3rd-round picks on Kyle Pitts. In auction drafts, Kyle Pitts is going for $20, $25. Like, what's our panic level on Kyle Pitts here, fellas?
Game over.
Really? Okay.
Yep. And I'll explain why once Nick gives his and you give yours.
No, you started.
Okay, well then, game over because people were making a ton of assumptions in the preseason, and that's where the value comes from. It's like assumptions about how things were going to work and how this game script was going to work and how this offense was going to work. The coaching is telling us we don't necessarily use that guy this way. It's like the game scripts are telling us we don't necessarily use this guy this way. He's like, his targets plummeted from 1 week to another with the exact same result in 2 weeks. He may be very talented. They're just not showing me that they are a team that can deliver on his talent, that are an offense that is prepared to design around it, and that's going to be a struggle for him all season. So I mean, game over, man, for me.
I'm going to say, my thing is, I'm going to say game over too, for this respect, is that it's the first 2 weeks of the season, and when you don't have preseason games to kind of lead up on, you're going to go with what works, and you're going to keep going back to that same well, and they don't look like they're going to Kyle Pitts. Like, you think that if he's going to have any kind of initial kind of like get the ball rolling and like, yeah, I'm ready to play week 1, and they're not doing that. So I think I would be more inclined to say like, I would be more game over on Kyle Pitts / like what's in the box. But because we all say what's in the box a lot, I'm going with game over.
I'm gonna go what's in the box. I think. I mean, the interesting thing is like last year. I mean, we've seen it. We've seen him succeed. He had 1,000 yards last year as a rookie tight end. Difference was Matt Ryan, which apparently better than Marcus Mariota. So there's that, I guess. I think spending a fourth overall draft pick on a tight end and then using him as a decoy in your offense it's an interesting strategy, Cotton. We'll have to see how that one works out. Because like when they asked Arthur Smith about this, and he was like, "Oh well, yeah, sometimes we use it," but then Hodge would get open. I don't even know the other guy's name. He was like, I'm like, who the fuck is Hodge? Who is he talking about?
You don't know your football lore. That's your problem.
It's like the 7th round or like walk-on guy they've got who's also a tight end, and they're like, so they're throwing to him instead of Kyle Pitts. It's like, dude, scheme Kyle Pitts open. What are you doing? Like, but I do think it's a what's in the box. I think here's what I'll ask. If you have Kyle Pitts, do you think there's value you can get in trading him away? Like, would you trade Kyle Pitts for like Gerald Everett and something else at this point?
No.
Oh, would I trade him for that? Yes.
Oh,
like
if I had Kyle Pitts?
If you have Kyle Pitts, are you trading him to CTR? Not necessarily CTR, but like if you just in general, maybe not our league specifically, but if you can trade him for like Gerald Everett and I don't know.
Yes, if I can get
Brandon Ayuk.
If I can get 2 players for Kyle Pitts, yes.
If you can trade for Gerald Everett and Brandon Ayuk, are you doing that?
I mean, honestly, I'd go for 2 players in the trade talks, but if someone was willing to just give me Gerald Everett for Kyle Pitts straight up right now, I'd take it.
See, I mean, yeah, I think you'd get more than that, though. I think just on the name alone, right?
Yeah, I mean, that's what I would hope, right? But if I couldn't get it, I'd debase myself, and I'd just take the lumps,
The weird thing about fantasy is like if Kyle Pitts had these 2 bad weeks in the middle of the season, right? It's like week 7 and 8. He had 2 bad weeks, and like the previous 6 weeks he was okay, some ups and downs or whatever. And then, like, he just had these 2 bad weeks, and then he picks it back up again the week later. It's like nobody says anything about it, right? It's like, oh, they're just 2 bad weeks.
You could say that of a lot of players.
You can say that about any player because it's just been 2 weeks this year. So, but, like, that's kind of where I'm at with Kyle Pitts because I've seen the success. The pedigree is there. He's an amazing player, and so that's why I'm not saying game over, man.
Okay. That's a good analysis. Hashtag analysis.
Touchdown Jesus.
We should really start with TDJ next time because I feel like we're always talking about Pritchard last, and if he actually does listen to this podcast, he has to wait like 2 hours to hear about 30 seconds.
I prefer
Nobody
it that
listens
way.
to this podcast. All right.
That is my preferred order.
All right, Nick. So you had Edwards-Helaire, or Shea.
Clyde-Helaire Edwards.
Clyde-Helaire Edwards, also known as Shea. And Wilson. Garrett Wilson as highlights here.
I did.
And he's
no. I mean, again,
I'm sorry. I put Wilson in. I put Wilson in. That was a late.
Okay. I was like, I don't remember putting Wilson in. No. I mean, it's people that you were able to get back in. Again, when I was doing this, it's people that are kind of like your highlights of the team. That you're kind of you came back, you got them for a great deal, and you should be really feeling good about them. And just know that if there was any kind of, I feel like there was just bad. The preseason, the hype, Edwards-Helaire cooled off a little bit this preseason. I feel like the hype around him had cooled off a little bit as it has the previous seasons, which is why he was able to get him for half the price. And I think that he proved that he's still the guy in Kansas City, and Kansas City's still good. Hashtag analysis. I think you still feel good about that, but knowing that, hey, I saved half my budget on a guy that's still well.
Yeah, everything is fine. If this guy maybe came the closest to beating that 17 points over 2 weeks, totally arbitrary, snarky tweet, right?
Well,
actually
DeAndre Swift did, but anyway.
Well, fair enough. I'm just saying. He's fine. 22 and 16 points over 2 weeks for a running back. Yeah, all day, every day. No problem at all. Whatever.
7 attempts and 8 attempts. Are we worried about that at all? As far as rushing attempts for that running back?
No, because it's Kansas City, and that's what Kansas City does. If they're in a closer game, he'll run more. But when you get up big, you let the backups run.
Yeah, it's game script,
Okay,
and his 2 touchdowns in the first week came off of receptions. So yeah,
he's got a very deep running back core here. Speaking of which, Dameon Pierce was a darling coming into this preseason.
It was indeed.
4 points and 8 points the first 2 weeks. Rex Burkhead, very prominent in the backfield, also there. What's our panic level on Dameon Pierce right now?
Everything's fine.
Game over.
Whoa!
Ow.
2 games into his career.
I mean, as you said, let's evaluate like some key facts here, okay? One, he has not taken the lead and been the number 1 running back as everyone expected. He's gotten 1 pass target, and he's got 11 and 15 rushing attempts with minimal efficiency. And I think, most important, he's on the Texans, and they're bad, and they're not going to be running a lot in the entire second half of many games. So I don't think this is a valuable investment at all.
Running a lot in the first half.
I mean, he had 4.5 yards a carry in the last game. I don't know what you mean by minimal efficiency, but 4.5 yards a carry is pretty good.
Fair enough. But 4 and 8 points isn't very good, and I don't see that there's reason to suspect that would drastically improve. He does have, in the middle of the season, a number of teams that have currently bad opposition ranks versus running backs, but usually it's because those teams are the ones that are winning, and so teams don't run against them very much. So
I'm on the everything is fine side of things. I think he needs to work his way in the offense. I think over time he will overtake Burkhead in that offense, and Lovie Smith's the coach there. A lot of times these older, old school coaches, like the veterans at the start of the year, they want to make those rookies pay their dues, and before they actually let the best player play the game, they want for some stupid reason, they want the veteran in there. Even though, your team ain't going to the Super Bowl, Lovey. It's fine. Why don't you play the exciting guy that everybody wants you to play? I will say this great. This team has a good running back core, yeah, I don't know. I don't know what to think of TJ's team.
Does it? I mean, oh no, the fantasy team. I was just saying, between Pierce and Burkhead, I feel like we're comparing the relative size of 2 different grains of sand and being like, no, that one's larger.
Somebody put Montgomery on the list here for concern. I'm gonna say everything's fine on Montgomery. I'm not concerned at all. I don't know.
Montgomery was my question mark. Montgomery was my question mark again.
That's a Lil Herbert situation. Talk to me again in week 4.
It's a game script situation. It's whatever. It's. Are you worried about him?
I mean, 15 rushes for 122 yards against the Packers this week. That's really good.
Yeah. No. Talk to me again in week 5, and we'll see. But
I think he is who we thought he was. I don't think he's anything great, but I think that's why you got him at a discount in a draft. I think he's fine. All right, power rankings next.
Okay.
Touchdown Jesus riding on Mahomes and Hill like every year. I hate them so much.
Who went first last time? Nick, you're going to go first this time, though.
Sure. So from 12 to 7, we have Weenie, Dad Dicks, Wounded Ducks, Salad Tadpoles, and Assassins.
Weenie below the Dad Dicks? Really?
That's to 8 that you listed.
Oh, and then the 7 is not going to happen, Chiefs.
You put Weenie below the Dad Dicks.
I did.
And the Ducks. Why?
And the Ducks.
That is disrespectful.
Hashtag analysis.
Okay.
Can you want to explain that a little bit? I mean, that's...
it's a hot take. No? Speaks for itself,
huh? That's an outlier there. You got...
Hashtag hot takes.
Okay.
He's not a fan of Nickwan, I guess.
All right, I'll go next. 12, I got the Ducks. 11, the Dad Dicks. Hashtag bad owner. 10, Assassins. 9, the Weenie, 8, TDJ, and 7, the Salad Tadpoles.
Okay, well, I will join you in having a Dicks Ducks combo, with 12 being Dad Dicks.
Yours are reversed a little bit, though.
Yeah, they their bad ownership has caught up with them. I think the Ducks
Yeah, welcome aboard.
could eventually improve, but yeah. Ducks number 2, Assassins at 10, Not Gonna Happen Chiefs at 9, Weenie at 8, and Salad Tadpoles at 7.
Weenie above the Not Gonna Happen Chiefs. That's crazy to me.
I mean, by one space. Like you know how it gets in the middle of the rankings. You know what I mean? It's a little.
I guess, yeah.
We'll do one more week and we'll see what happens.
All right,
We're gonna
Nick,
mix it all
take
up.
us home.
Neither one's going to the top 5 anytime soon, so
I
it
have
doesn't really
Touchdown
matter.
Jesus, Barely an Inconvenience, Riding Gazebo, CTR, Hitmen, and Hillers. God help me, Hillers.
Yeah, I've
Not
got
what my team's called.
I got the Chiefs at 6, CTR at 5. God, that feels bad. Feels weird. Barely an Inconvenience at 4, Gazebo at 3, Hitmen at 2, and Hillers at 1.
Yep, that makes sense.
Thank you, gentlemen. I will. I'll go in there with TDJ at 6, CTR at 5, Inconvenience at 4, Hitman at 3, Hillers at 2, Gazebo at 1.
Always riding for the Gazebo.
Well, you came at me for my analysis last time, and where are we this week, huh? I mean,
Then brought you back to me.
you guys criticized my team when we got to the Gazebo and the team analysis. They were like, I don't know, everything's amazing. I don't know even what to look at. So I mean, how do you argue against that? She's got an incredible team.
Right.
I've had a good 2 weeks, but I have a creeping sense of anxiety that it's all about to collapse. So,
That's just called fantasy football.
well, that's the
All
life
right.
I'm living.
Guys, we'll shut it down now.
Shut it down.
Thanks to those still around. For Hillers, for Nick, Merrill signing off. Talk to you guys later.
Stop.